weeks before it came to me. I had to choose my heart, heal and get free. She said life's easy, pain comes with living. Surround myself with everything God's given. It's time to change my routine, create a new scene that feels like an unreachable dream.
Hello and happy Friday. Good morning, everyone. I hope you all have been keeping cool in this beautiful weather we've been having. These 90-degree days have been amazing to me, and I'm enjoying them, and I've been out in them. But right now, take a load off, relax, and sit with me on this episode of Mentally How Are You? I'm here to discuss all things mental healing, and today we are going to discuss the benefits as well as the mental stressors of home buying and home ownership, as June also serves as National Home Ownership Month. June, you have a lot going on. It's way too much happening in this month. Everything happens in the month of June, but it is also the month for National Home Ownership. Now, before we dive into today's discussion and I introduce my guest, because I'm not sitting alone, I would like to switch things up just a little bit. I want to begin with our Toolbox Technique segment. Due to what we have just experienced and are currently going through in the nation, I think it's important for us to discuss something. I know many are nervous and unsure of what to expect next. I think it's a very important time for us to do a few things. One is limit our time online and decreasing doom scrolling. We discussed how to unplug in our first episode, and now will be a good time to entertain unplugging. I understand that we need to stay informed. However, I must point out there is a difference between staying informed and entertaining opinion that brings forth terror and fright. 2, we should sit with our feelings and determine what we can control. So I have a journal prompt for you today. We have been hearing the phrase sit with your feelings a lot, I'm sure, online, but today I want to explain to you how to do so. Let's say you feel uneasy right now, or angry, or even fearful. I first want to let you know that these feelings are normal. It makes sense to feel this way with what we're experiencing. Take a moment to yourself in a quiet space and determine what is behind these feelings. Taking a deep breath and exhale. If it's fear, what is the fear? That the country could go to war, a flat-out war, or maybe because you don't believe your family will be safe or is prepared for a time like this. If it's anger, is it because you feel unprepared or maybe agitated with how the country voted, let's say, something you can't control? Once you determine what is behind or at the root of what you're feeling, begin to decide truthfully, what can you control? This is the journal prompt. It would be best for you to journal these thoughts out. I call it free writing control. Free write or randomly write out what you are feeling, then make a list of what you can control and how you can control it. So let's say if you free write fear and determine it's because your home wouldn't be prepared or you wouldn't have a safe haven in an undesirable time, begin to make a list of how you can control that. So by example, I would say if you feel like, you know what, I need to store up on items in my home. You can't control going out, purchasing and buying different things, but you can't control what's going on, in our White House or what's happening with around the country that is not directly connected to you. So if you can maintain something like stocking up, if you can maintain something like spending time with your family and making sure you guys are on one accord and in unity, I would say to go in that direction. So free write, sit with your feelings and write out exactly what it is that you feel. Once you determine what those feelings are, I'm not requesting that you ignore them. I'm requesting that you then determine, how can I control what I am feeling? How could I best control this fear that I'm experiencing that is very real, very normal, and it makes sense to feel that way right now, but how can I control things? And if it's by a matter of purchasing something, spending time somewhere, planning, budgeting, whatever that may be, take control where it actually makes sense, because the other things that you cannot control will only increase or heighten different symptoms and feelings that we are all having right now. I pray that everyone is able to find some peace at this time, and hopefully practicing what has just been provided will help. In fact, I wanted to begin with this journaling prompt so that you all can easily get to this portion of the episode. So that's why we switched it up today. I just wanted to make sure that you could get to this part and you don't have to fast forward through anything to get to this portion. Send this along to a friend and make sure that everybody engages in some form of a coping mechanism for what we are currently experiencing. Now, with that being said, Lean in with us today to discuss ways you can defeat the mental stressors of home buying, home ownership, and housing concerns. Please help me welcome Olivia White, real estate agent with the Starry Group at eXp Realty. Hello, Olivia. How are you?
I am fantastic. Thank you so much for having me.
Not a problem at all. I do want to let everybody know that Olivia is a great friend to the show and a great worker throughout the city. So if you don't know her, trust me that there is going to be a link to find her underneath this episode wherever you're watching it. Thank you for coming in. Thank you for joining. Let's just hop right into it, okay? Now let's be blunt. I'm sure there are many who may be thinking to themselves, you know what, I'm not set up in a position right now where I could buy a home, or things aren't together for me to purchase currently. And they may be thinking, why would we be discussing this right now? So I want to say, as the professional, for me, I'm not a professional, but for me, I've always understood that moments of crises may sometimes be the best time to purchase or buy a home or sell real estate. But you, as the professional, please help us understand how we should navigate the home buying process currently.
Yes, so the current home buying process in our city and in a lot of areas is very much a seller's market. So in this market, the best thing to do would be know your numbers, get your financing in order, make sure you have your pre-approval so that when you do decide to go home shopping, you don't open the door for disappointment and you fall in love with the home that you're not able to afford. So that's definitely necessary in this market.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, we often hear the great debate of to rent or to buy, right? When is someone prepared to buy or even, let's say, sell a home?
Preparation for buying a home really depends on your financial status. Some of my clients take a year or two to save as much as they can so that they can have more money as a down payment. And it will really depend on your goal and your desire. So if anyone has a goal to buy a home, they can definitely make that happen. Knowing your numbers up front, so connecting with an agent or a lender that has resources available to you so you can see where you are and they can let you know where you need to be. And that will help take away some of the anxiety that people feel in the uncertainty. So, and as for selling your home in this market, it's a fantastic time. Homes are seeing multiple offers still across the price ranges in the 200s up to the $1 million range. So when you see a home that you love, make sure you entrust your agent to submit an offer that is going to be receptive and advantageous to the seller. It's not the time in the current market to make lowball offers. So if you find something you really love, to ease the anxiety, your real estate agent should guide you into the sale and give you the ideas on what's going to be the best offer to get you into the home.
Okay. Now, you mentioned lenders, right? I know that most people a lot of times think just go to the bank. Like you need to go to the bank to be approved from a bank and see how much they'll give you for a home. What do you mean by lenders altogether?
Your bank, your local credit union. I have references that I refer to my clients as well. You can use a broker. The best person to get your suggested people to use for the mortgage would be your real estate agent, I found, in my opinion, because we have access to information that a client may not know. We also work with trusted lenders who we know get the job done, who we know don't get you set up to be approved, and then later in the process something may occur that denies the loan.
Right.
So we want to avoid that at all costs, which is why it's best to speak with your agent and let them connect you with the trusted mortgage provider.
Okay. I'm glad you said speak with your agent, because I know a lot of people, sometimes they feel like they can just get a home without an agent. Or I'm going to be honest, when I said that you would be on today's episode, someone actually asked me to ask you about they go on Redfin and look at homes, and it says there's an agent that can show you this home right now, and then they feel like that's who I'll just deal with, the person who can show me the home online. Is that a smart choice, or how should I go?
It can be a smart choice. You can connect with good agents through all the platforms. I definitely encourage buyers to vet their agent. Make sure they have a personality style that matches yours. Make sure you feel comfortable, because one thing that will cut out some of the anxiety is to work with someone that you trust. And so if you have a conversation with someone and they make you feel rushed or make you feel like we need to make a decision quickly, you may want to consider other options before you actually sign with an agent. So that's another thing. When you do find someone on Redfin or any of the sites, Zillow, before touring homes as of August 17th of 2024, a contract has to be signed. So you are signing with an agent to work with you for a certain period of time. So it's definitely important to make sure that you feel comfortable asking your questions. For me, I am always available. I try to give my clients as much information up front and future pace them. You know, in this market, we may come across multiple offers. So I am going to do my research and make sure whatever offer we submit is, you know, relatable to the market. Sometimes it might be asking price, over asking by 5,000, 10,000, 15,000. I've seen a huge range. So another way to ease anxiety for my client is I reach out to the other agents when I'm on the buy side to see, what do you have? Is there anything else on the table? What would be advantageous to your seller that we can hopefully work out in the offer to secure the deal?
Got it. Okay, great information. I want to know, what's a realistic timeline for buying and selling currently, right? Because you said now is not the time to lowball. So what realistically are people looking at when they're thinking about buying or selling?
So typically you can have your pre-approval issued in as little as a day to 2 days. The pre-approval would include reviewing your finances and your credit. So your credit score will come into play. If the paperwork that you give to your lender, everything checks out, you can have your approval in 24 to 48 hours. Once you have that approval, we start home shopping. And when we go under contract, if you write an offer and it's accepted, you're under contract. Once under contract, you can close anywhere from, if you're financing, 21 to 45 days. If you have a cash offer, you can close in 2 weeks usually. Yeah.
Right. So with financing, that timeline, that 21 to 45 days, I've heard horror stories about underwriting, right? And what people have to go through, and sometimes it stretches. So is that possible for it to go past the 45 days?
It is possible. Hopefully you are working with, this is where it is encouraged to work with a reputable lender that has a good history of closing on time. So for myself, I connect people with lenders that close on time. But if you're working with someone that is continually requesting things or didn't set the expectation up front, it can cause a little anxiety. So sometimes, yes, homes don't close on time. In addition to financing issues, there may be changes with the closing date by the seller. And on the sales side, it's pretty easy. It's easier for them. They don't have to worry about the financing. They are just, as an agent on the seller side, we just ensure that the buyer's financing looks good somewhere in the middle of the process. So that way, if there is any hiccups, we can try to get in front of them. So for the seller, if we touch base after 21 days of being under contract and they may not be fully approved, let's say, or they're still pending some documents, we would encourage the buyer's agent to get that information in, because on the sales side, we don't want to miss out on another opportunity if the buyer can't process the loan or go through the financing. But yes, the timeline can definitely change.
Yes, it can. I feel like it's one of those surprises. So what are some common surprises that you see come about that stress out buyers or sellers?
Some buyers feel a sense of anxiety waiting for a response from a seller to see whether or not they've accepted the offer. That could you can get a response right away, or you can wait for 24, 48 hours. In some cases, if you submit a contract on a Thursday and say, will you accept our offer, they may decide to wait through the weekend. and get more people in to look at the home, which is why it's important to really put your best foot forward on your offer and hopefully eliminate the waiting game. But it definitely happens. And the best way that I try to navigate that situation is to stay in constant communication with the buyer. Hey, this is where we are. I know you are waiting for a response, and hopefully I've spoken with the seller's agent and they've said, hey, you guys, you look good. The offer is still at the top, or maybe there's a little room for you to come up. It's all in the negotiation. So the negotiation is where a lot of anxiety lies for.
Yes. And so I was going to say, because as you're describing this, I've been through the process myself before, and it is stressful, even just from the moment of deciding to buy a house, like determining I want to buy a home or sell a home, and then all the way through to completion. So I would like to know, do you believe you play a role in someone's mental well-being during this process, and how?
I definitely play a role. The how would be making sure I'm responsive. If someone calls me and they're nervous and I leave them waiting for a day, that will only heighten the anxiety. So my best practice is to answer questions honestly and give them all the information that is necessary while we wait in this process. But yeah, I do play a role. I'm a bit of a hand holder for some clients, a guider, a nurturer, and a teacher. It's a learning process. Most people that I have worked with are first-time home buyers, and a lot of sellers have been in their home for a long time, so they don't know how the process goes. So my job in easing that anxiety is being available, answering questions, keeping them informed, and just letting them know these things are normal.
Yeah. Now, we keep throwing out stress and anxiety, which seem like the two highest symptoms that people deal with when going through this process. I would ask, what are some strategies for managing the pressure of navigating challenges of buying and selling? So what do you recommend? Let's say a client is extremely fearful, right? Of like, oh no, what if they don't accept my offer? What if they don't accept my offer? What do you recommend for your clients to do in the waiting time?
I recommend taking a deep breath. And understanding that this is part of the process. So letting them know, again, that the comfort of me doing everything that I can on my end, and hopefully other agents are really putting their best foot forward to ensure, if this is the home you love and we've submitted a solid offer, we will hear back eventually. It just may take some time.
Yeah. Okay. And I know I've had even clients before who, they're completely stressed when meeting with me because they're in the home buying or selling, atmosphere. And I've recommended, like, maybe take some time, the two of you, hang out, do something different, think about something different, right? And of course it stays in the back of your mind. It's just going to be there because this is a big purchase. But I think that taking a deep breath, relaxing, and getting into some new activities while you wait is one of the best things that can happen.
Definitely walking and taking a break from the home search. If you find yourself at a high level of anxiety when you're looking at homes, or you're seeing something that you love is already accepted an offer and you're no longer able to look at it or place your offer on a property, a way to navigate that is not to fall in love before your offer is accepted.
So don't do that though. That's so hard.
It's hard, but it'll keep you from comparing a home that you fell in love with that's no longer available to a home that is available and is something you could still love. So it keeps you from comparative analysis, and it's challenging. But if you are at a point where you're overwhelmed and you're stressed, and you've done everything you can do, take a break, take a walk, and have an evening. If you're purchasing with someone, let's say, have an evening of no house talk.
Okay.
just rest it on the table and pick it up the next day.
Okay. Understandable. I've been guilty of falling in love. Okay. I do want to know, you keep pointing out like having a really good real estate agent. I can testify that you are definitely that. And I can also testify that I've met some who are not so handy dandy and great. because of that, how can clients build trust with a real estate agent? Like, do you determine this is who I should work with specifically?
Expertise, definitely knowledge base. You just you can vet your agent if you'd like to. This is your home buying experience, so it's a life-changing experience. So you want to make sure you're using someone who is knowledgeable, who is trusted, and who you feel comfortable really going to with questions, because that's what I found. Sometimes people just feel a little nervous. So I have questions that I can ask to really get you into the home that you love that you may not even recognize as a question. So definitely you can look at their history, look at their reviews if they have any reviews available, and yeah, you can interview them.
I was just going to ask, how do you vet? But okay, I didn't think about that you could look at their reviews and different things like that. Is it, are you able to see like how much they have sold or how many times?
Sometimes some of the sites are very well, updated, and some are not so much, but you can ask questions. What has your past clientele said about you? How many repeat clients do you have? How many clients do you have that refer you to other people? And what is your history? How many homes have you sold this year, last year? Where's your area of expertise? And just, their overall knowledge base in the process.
Okay, that's something that didn't even cross the mind, but now we know. What is the most emotionally difficult part of this process for most people that you've seen?
Telling them that their offer has not been accepted. That is a challenge. Unfortunately, that does happen. And so when that happens, we try to remember, we submitted a solid offer. Sometimes it's just not going to work. And so you get back on your feet, back to the drawing board. In this market, one thing that's very important is if you are consistently missing opportunities to own, make sure your offers are solid. That is one of the key things. But sometimes you won't be able to compete, and it just is the natural flow of things.
Yeah. And I was going to ask, how do you prep for that? Because we're saying don't fall in love, right? Like, wait, let the process go through. But when you find something that you really like, that you really want, you make the offer and you're waiting and then it's not accepted, it's kind of hard. Like, that's heartbreaking, right?
It can be heartbreaking.
How do you prep for that? Like, how do you ease your clients with a conversation about this? Like, hey, some offers won't be accepted no matter how good they are?
Well, I future pace. So if we are making an offer on a new listing, let's say it just hit the market, the chances of you seeing it in images and falling in love are heightened, that someone else would see it and fall in love too.
Right.
So future pace, we are going to make this offer. We're going to see if there are any offers on the table already. If there are, we're going to have to be competitive. And by being competitive, you will have to trust your real estate agent and their information, what they've looked up, if they've been able to communicate with the seller's agent, if they have, there's different ways and strategies that we have to kind of navigate having the offer accepted. There's escalation clauses, which would mean, we are willing to offer, let's say, $300,000. But if you get an offer over $300,000, we will go up to $305,000, or $1,000 over the offer that may be beating our offer. So there's a lot of different ways to try to navigate losing out on a home that you love. But the key is just to I find that it helps clients when they know up front, this is what the market looks like.
Okay.
This is what could happen. I will do everything in my power to get the home for you, but sometimes it just doesn't happen.
Yeah. And with the market right now, like today, I would want to know, how often would you communicate with me as a real estate agent? Like, can I call you every day?
I talk to people every day, multiple times
Really?
a day. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I get calls as early as 8 a.m. I was speaking to a client on the way here. She has an offer pending. They are waiting for more tours. But I have spoken with even the seller's agent multiple times as well. what do you need? What are the sellers looking for to accept the offer? Sometimes sellers want to just get offers and weigh them. We don't have a way of, avoiding that. We can encourage them to accept our offer by staying in communication. But yeah, I'm available all the time. Weekends, weekdays. And so if that is what is required for your schedule, if you need an agent that works on the weekends, ask your agent if they work on the weekends. Don't be afraid to ask the questions, because asking the questions will eliminate the anxiety that you could potentially feel later in the future or avoid in the future. So,
Okay. Well, that's good. I was jokeful saying call you every day, but I mean, that is good because you're a part of me making this life decision. So I would need to be able to reach you. Now, outside of us talking about how emotionally taxing it is to, put in an offer, acceptance or not acceptance, how do you help clients stay organized and reduce decision fatigue?
So we have to have real conversations as well.
Okay.
And sometimes I will have to say, of all these homes, let's say you fall in love with 10 properties, and you're like, and wonderfully, they're all available for you to submit an offer on. They don't have multiple offers. Asking you the questions that I asked up front: why are we moving? What is your purpose for the move? What do you plan to do with this space? How long do you see yourself in this space? Really narrowing down your ultimate goal in purchasing a home. If you're saying you'd really enjoy a home with a basement, let's say, I'm going to encourage you to solely look at homes with basements, because that is what your goal is. Now, if your goals change somewhere throughout the process, which definitely happens, then we make adjustments. But if it's a primary residence, it's important to minimize distractions.
Yeah.
And so picking your areas, knowing where you want to live, some clients will call and say they're open to anywhere as long as they can get this. And then so I have to ask more questions. Well, what do you do for a living? Where is your family? Where do you work? Do you have to commute? Are these things going to be important to you in the future if you have to drive an hour in the snow, or will it be taxing and frustrating and overwhelming, thus adding more anxiety to you even if you get the home? So these things may not be initial thoughts for someone, so I help them, kind of recognize these things and put themselves in a position that they will be satisfied with in the future.
Now, what I just heard was a lot of journal prompts that we should be having if you're right for the home buying process, because I myself wouldn't even think about some of those things that you named and that you put together. So, because when you determine you want to buy a home, it's just, okay, I'm ready. I want to buy. I think I have this much money. I think I may be able to afford this. And I'm in love with this neighborhood that I drive past all the time. But it's not always determining certain factors that you just laid out. So I'm going to encourage everybody to fast forward to this part, or rewind actually, and come back to some of these points that you just named out. I think they're good ones. I would like you to walk us through what to expect emotionally during negotiations, inspections, or even closing difficulties.
Emotions during negotiations it's going to ebb and flow, because we're waiting on someone else. And so anything that's out of our control, we have to ground ourselves and say, this is my offer. This is maybe what I can afford. I am not comfortable going over it. And so if it does not work out for you in that moment, it is okay to accept that that may not be the home for you at that time. Inspection can also be, so typically an inspection, depending on the size of the home, could be about an hour and a half to 2 hours. And that inspector is going to go on the roof, in the crawl space, in the attic. They're going throughout the entire home. So the chances of something coming up, pretty high. But a lot of things are minor. If there is something major, again, this is all in negotiations, but depending on the type of offer you've written, you may be able to say, hey, seller, can you help me pay for, I want this repaired before I move in. Are you willing to contribute any funds to this repair so that we can stay under contract? But again, initially up front, preparation is when you initially write the contract, you either say you're accepting the home as it is, exactly in its form, no changes, not asking the seller for any cost or repair, or you're saying also on the contract you'll initial, hey, Mr. Seller, I love your home. If something comes up, I would like for you to aid me. And so the seller will know that up front, that you will either potentially make a request on safety issues or things that you're not comfortable replacing, or you will not make requests on things that may come up on the inspection. So that's something that we would talk about in the beginning. And so it sets the precedent of, if anything major comes up, you know, how you will navigate that process with yourself or with the seller. And then you said closing?
Closing difficulties.
Closing difficulties. There can be lots of closing delays. In sometimes one closing delay, maybe the seller didn't move out of the home yet. So if I'm on the buy side and the seller is still present in the home, we use attorneys. So typically the attorney would navigate that with the seller's attorney to say, hey, your seller should be out of the home by this day, but we went through a final walkthrough and they're not, they're still present. So how will we, you know, navigate this situation? What can we do to ensure that the client still moves in? Closing challenges for me, thank God, have been very minimal.
Okay.
But I know that they definitely happen. If you are, for my buyers, submitting any documentation that's necessary right away without delay, having diligence will take out some of that uncertainty. And it will ensure when you do get to the end, when you get to the closing, you can breathe because everyone's documents are received. There's no additional calculations that have to be made, and you've done all the work up front. For my sellers, again, just ensuring that I stay in touch with the finance company, that the buyers look good, that my sellers, if they need any moving resources, we can provide that for them. If they need moving trucks, we can, you know, get them connected to people that, you know, they have those services. And keeping them informed, really making sure if they do have questions, that we are there to help them make sure they leave the home in a nice, clean, organized space for the next buyer, for the next homeowner.
And I want to go back just a little bit because I brought up this question as if everybody is supposed to just know. I'll be honest that when I first started the home search process myself, there were things I just did not know that were needed or that would have to happen. So speaking about an inspection, this is when someone comes out, you've made an offer on a home, you guys are probably going to close, but somebody comes out and they literally inspect the home. They see if things are working. They see if warranties are needed. They see if something is broken and should be fixed, right? Like this is what inspection is.
Yeah.
That hour to hour and a half, 2 hours can be so much anxiety because you're hoping that they don't find something, that there's not something major you would have to add on to closing costs or pay, right? So for you, how would you best recommend, because you as a buyer, or everybody, does everybody have to be there for the inspection, the real estate agent, the buyer?
No. So the real estate agent, the inspector, sometimes the buyers don't come if they have to work.
Really?
They may not come if their schedule is tight, but in that instance, I make sure that the inspector calls them to go over the report. The report can be anywhere from 20 to 40 pages.
Listen.
They have checklists, and so some of the inspectors that I have used will, if there is an issue or something hazardous or dangerous, they will mark it red and they will give you details. They will also provide pictures so that you can see. Most of us are not going into the crawl space.
Right.
So they will give you evidence of what they found and suggestions on how they think you should go forward, whether it needs to be repaired, replaced, or it's in good shape.
Interesting. So, wait a minute. I thought that you had to be there as the buyer for the inspection. You don't.
I always recommend it.
Oh, okay.
I always recommend it, but in some circumstances, buyers are not able to go.
I would recommend it.
Absolutely.
I would recommend being
it.
there. And I would recommend having some type of activity to help you stay
Yes.
calm
Yes.
while the process is going on. But I think it would be good to be there. I'm glad you're saying you as a real estate agent you encourage your buyers to
Oh,
be
yes.
there.
Mhm.
But that's what I was going to ask. Like, do you have them do an activity? Are you guys talking when they're there? Like, what happens? Because it's just like, oh, what's going to be next, you know?
Typically, during inspection, we have a general sense of the shape of the home, of the shape of the mechanicals and the property. And one don't do when you have an inspection is please try not to um, follow the inspector into every room. If you're anxious,
Nina.
it can definitely be overwhelming, but rest assured, if you're using a trusted inspector, they will go through all the points with you once they're complete. And so they like to get in and, because sometimes if you're speaking with them or questioning them in the midst of the review, it can distract them.
Right.
And so we want to make sure they are doing their due diligence. And if they find something, they may say after they've reviewed something, hey, this goes here, or this should be replaced, or I'm going to mark this, I don't know, furnace this way. I see that it's 20 years old, so it will need repair, but it is still in good shape. Just something for you to note.
Yeah.
But yeah, during the inspection, you're pretty much sitting.
Yes,
Yeah,
it's true.
you're
it's
sitting.
true. And I'm glad you said trusted inspector, because this is also I feel like we should highlight how do we get an inspector? How do we have the lawyer attached? Like, most people come into this process thinking they have to gather all these people themselves. So how does all of this come to be?
So again, I provide the resources for my clients. They can, of course, choose to use any mortgage provider, any inspector, any attorney. But if you don't have the resources, or you don't know who to use, where to go, I can definitely give you that information. We have inspectors. I'm on a real estate team, so our inspectors they're really good.
Yeah.
They're good. They go through the home. They're thorough. And so you want to ask questions. This is when you have the inspection, you're paying for it, and it could be, this is a range anywhere from $500 to $700 and up, depending on the home. If you'd like to add a radon inspection, that would be an additional cost. If you want to do a termite inspection, if you want to have a plumber come out, so you have the option of hiring anyone you choose. However, if you use a real estate agent, hopefully they'll have those resources for you.
Yeah. And this is where I would suggest, as a counselor, for you all to use a real estate agent, because that would help ease anxiety, fear, stress, and any form of chaos or confusion, because these things come along with a good real estate agent. So my mental health opinion would be to use a good real estate agent. I do want to know, because of individuals I've worked with, they maybe sometimes be going through heavy transitions in life, like divorce, grief, job relocation when they're looking for a home. So have you worked with individuals going through these transitions, and how do you support them in this process?
Yes. So specifically speaking to divorce, that type of type of seller is, you want to ensure that you are doing your best to inform both parties. Sometimes it's not amicable. So in instances where it is not amicable, and I am working with the sellers, I think what eliminates a lot of pressure for me as the agent, and maybe for the sellers too, hopefully, is setting the stage up front. I will have to speak with your ex-spouse. After I speak with you, we have to work together. I will play the middleman and ensure that the ultimate goal is achieved, which is getting your home sold.
Okay. Now, we've been discussing the process heavily, right? But what about the aftermath? What kind of support, if any, does a real estate agent play in, after closing?
So after closing, I do encourage all my clients to keep in touch. I follow up with them periodically, and just make sure that they are in a position that they enjoy, which we try to navigate that up front to avoid buyer's remorse. One thing that is important after the process is making sure that before you buy a home, what you're approved for may not necessarily be what you want to pay. So knowing up front that you don't want a mortgage over, let's say, $3,000 a month. If that is your goal, I will help you stick to that goal.
Okay.
And so, because if you've told me you don't want to be house poor in
Yes.
your house, you want to cap it at $3,000,
Mm-hmm.
that will help avoid issues after closing of overwhelm, frustration, not knowing what to do. And yeah, just not being satisfied with the purchase. Ultimately, I want everyone to love their home.
Yeah.
I want you to walk in, get ideas, feel encouraged. This is for my primary residents. Obviously, investors would be different. But for my
Right.
buyers moving into the home, my goal is to hold your hand and ensure it is a pleasant process, as pleasant as it can be. I can manage on my end. So anything that I can do to help after, if they need really anything, more information about insurance, they may want to get different quotes after a year.
Yeah.
They may decide they want to put in a pool. They can call me, hey, Olivia, do you know a pool guy? Why, yes, I do. I can connect you with my pool guy.
Okay.
Do you know anyone that can fix my garage? I sure do. Maybe something simple happened. Do you have a plumber in your books that I can speak with that you trust? Yes, of course I do. So I can still continue to provide resources post-closing across the board on really anything.
Nice. Nice. How have past clients explained, how they feel after the process? Once you own a home or you've sold your home, how do they explain relief, if any?
Relief. They feel a weight has been, so during the process, someone may be anxious the entire time. Offer, inspection, financing, and then closing. And once it's done, it's a relief. Happy tears happen a lot.
Yeah.
Stress relief tears happen. It hopefully remains this way, but at closings for my buyers, everyone is happy. Closings for the sellers they're probably already moving on. They've already signed their documents with the attorney, so I don't get to see them in person at a closing the way that I see the buyers. But for the buyers, it's pictures, smiles.
Good. So there is relief after
There is relief,
the whole process.
yeah.
That's good. Now, we kind of touched a little bit on this earlier, but I feel like we have to address the hard truth of the fact that some people, the letdown. Some people don't find a home when they're trying to in a certain season or period of time. How do you support clients through this truth?
Yeah. It goes back to setting the expectation. So I have a few clients that are not credit ready. There are programs available if you're not credit ready that can work with you. And so my job is to connect you to those programs and follow up with you and see where you are in the process. We can set a timeline. If you need an accountability partner in purchasing a home, I can be that for you. And I do have clients that I do that for. And so it really just depends on the situation. If it's credit, we know we can bring that score up in a certain amount of time. We can get some ideas. But the best way to know how to move forward is to know where you are right now. So don't necessarily, I encourage people not to assume they are not ready. Speak with someone and really get the hardcore truth about where you need to be, where you are currently, and where you want to go.
Yeah.
So you still would need an advisor for that. But definitely, if it's not related to credit, if you're maybe just continually missing out on offers with your agent or with any agent, ask yourself if you are trusting what the agent says. If you have put in an offer that was lower than what the agent suggested and you continually miss out, you will only continue to see that until perhaps you trust the agent. And so we have things available, resources. We can pull up information about recent sales in the area, homes that recently closed in the last 3-6 months. It's a little more challenging with multiple offers, but again, that goes back to getting in touch with the agent and saying, hey, where were we? Can you give me specifics? How far off from the winning number were we? And so if we can get that information, it would be great. Oftentimes, if you are consistently not winning bids for homes, it's in the offer. So making sure you're comfortable with going in with your highest offer, your best offer up front for a home that you love so that you can hopefully minimize continual rejection.
Yeah. Now, because it is just a hard truth that sometimes, it just may not be the season or the time for you to buy a home. I know that you're a real estate agent, you help people buy and sell, but I also know that you've helped families previously with finding rentals. And I mean, let's be honest, now people are facing a lot of housing insecurities and instability currently. So for those of us who are not at the point where we can buy a home just yet, or even sell a home, and we're maybe worried about like lease renewals or rent increase, what advice would you give to those individuals?
For my rental clients, I would, so if the goal is to purchase a home, but you're still in the rental market, make it as cost affordable for yourself as you can. So that you can continue to save money, so that you can work on your credit, so that, and sometimes for a rental home, the security deposit is quite high. And so you have to be prepared to put that money up front. In some leases, I've even seen negotiations, and the rent may show $2,000 a month, but someone submitted an application for $2,100 a month, and so that's who they go with. So getting as much information as possible. I know sometimes when people try to find rental homes without a real estate agent, because you can absolutely use a real estate agent in a rental, they don't get responses, which happens a lot. They are avoided. And just not falling for scams. For my rental clients, making sure if you are submitting an application that it is a trusted resource. Looking at the home on certain sites or different social media sites, those may not be actual rentals. So just avoiding the pitfalls, avoiding the scams, making sure that it feels right for you. And you can speak with the landlords too. Speak with them, ask them what is their plan for the home. Say, I am actually thinking about buying a home soon. Are you potentially thinking of selling in the future? What are your plans? Is that something you would be willing to consider? The worst thing they could do is say no.
Right.
So, the rental market is also, it's pretty challenging as well.
It is. Yeah. And I feel like when I first began renting, it was different from what's happening
100%.
now. I've heard so many people kind of going through like housing where they're buying a house where you're bidding on how much you're going to pay on rent. So would it be better for somebody to speak with a real estate agent to rent?
I always suggest speaking with an expert in anything housing. So for me, I would say yes.
Okay.
I would say use a trusted resource. Sometimes your friends may not know exactly what's going on in the market, and so they could steer you in the wrong direction. So definitely, maybe sometimes going outside of your circle and seeking advice from people who are in the industry that can guide you with precision.
Okay. That makes sense. And I know for some of us, it's kind of difficult, right? Like getting a real estate agent or even thinking about going through any of this process in any way is kind of troubling. I know currently that the Kane County Health Department is helping with rental assistance and I believe also housing expenses. And there's a deadline of July 31st to apply for that. So I will have that link again attached to this episode. Anyone out there who you're looking at this and you're saying, I'm not in the position to buy right now, but I'm looking to rent or I need help with rent so that I can pay my rent to start saving to be able to buy, then I would say visit the Kane County Health Department's website and the link that will be attached and apply for what they're helping out with by July 31st. Now, Olivia, here on this show, we do something called Pop Psych versus Clinical Psychology. And that's where we bust up myths, basically. So I want to bust up a few myths about the housing process, right? So one that I've heard is you must have 20% down, absolutely, no matter what. If you don't have 20% saved, then you cannot buy a home.
That is a 100% myth. Debunk that myth. It is not true at all. Some people purchasing homes right now can buy with as little as no money down. There are programs available. There is the IDA program, that's IHDA, and that is a resource available for you to learn more about housing. They may give you a grant towards your down payment, and you would have to put down as little as 1%. There are also sometimes 3.5% down for certain loan products, 5% down for certain loan products. Here in our wonderful city of Aurora, we have the neighborhood project.
Yeah.
And so the neighborhood project will guide you through any myths that you may come across, but you definitely do not have to have 20% down.
Congratulations, everyone. You need a perfect credit score. You got to have that 800 in order to get a home.
Myth. The bare minimum with traditional financing that you need on your credit score is a 580. That's with an FHA product. Typically, to really have security and assurance, most banks require 620 or higher. But again, there are also programs available that are able to work with you regardless of your credit score, and they may be more concerned with things that you have on your credit as it relates to your debts. So that would be the NACA program, which is NACA, and that is a quick application process. They do have different things required. So you do have to do community service.
Yeah.
You have to give back in order to receive with the NACA program. But for someone who is credit challenged, it's worth a conversation so that you know, once again, where you are, how long it will take you to get to where you want to be. And you can set your timeline and follow it accordingly so you can get to the ultimate goal, which is home ownership.
Okay, I like that, and I'm familiar with the NACA program. 3, renting is always cheaper than buying.
Another myth. Renting can be as expensive as buying. I previously mentioned sometimes the security deposit is a down payment for a home. So you definitely want to have as much information available as possible, weigh your options. That's a myth.
It's a lie. You should wait for the perfect time or interest rate.
Perfect time would mean financially ready. So we say marry the house and date the rate.
Ooh.
So in the future, you can refinance. Right now, our rates are at it ranges, but we're in the high 6s right now.
Okay.
So at some point, we hope that they will adjust and come down. When that happens, home buyers can take advantage of the lower interest rate by refinancing. So preparation, though, if you do plan to refinance in the future, make sure you keep your credit score up because you have to qualify. Make sure that your income is still solid because, again, you will need to requalify for that refinance to reduce the rate, but it could be worth it.
Okay.
It could definitely be worth it.
Now, speaking of anxiety, I know that some people believe this myth specifically is that if you miss one mortgage payment, then you lose your home, like it's all over.
No, another myth. Of course, I don't want anyone to miss a mortgage payment, but things happen. So typically with most banks, now this is going to be an overall assumption on the banks. Some banks are at liberty to do what they feel, but typically it is a 90-day period before they start any foreclosure process or short sale process on the home. So you would have to miss 3 payments before they get the ball rolling on short sale or foreclosure.
Yeah.
Typically.
Okay. Now, do you have any other myths that you feel like you hear from clients or when people come to you is something you just want to put out there and say, hey guys, absolutely not. That's not true.
Myth. That it's not worth it. I hear some people say it's not worth buying a home in this market.
Yeah.
It still is because your home is your oasis, whether you're renting or buying. If you are a creative person and you want to just make your home feel like you may be limited on your options when you're in a rental. So having a space that and again, renting works. It's necessary.
Yeah.
But owning a home can also present a state of ease, and for sure you won't have no one can put you out unless you're not doing what you need to do.
Right.
So I've come across people who have rented homes for 20 years, 30 years, and they reach out to me looking for a place to go because the owner has decided they're selling.
Yeah.
They don't have to give an explanation. They don't have to give a reason. So some clients, they get the safety net is pulled from under them. In some instances, the investor could also increase your rent as they see fit. And so we just want to do our best to reduce those factors. If it's something that you're experiencing in your rental home that you no longer want to experience, homeownership may be an option, but renting is a good thing for some people. But yeah, it is a myth that even though the rates are high, it's still a good time to buy.
Okay. You all heard it here first. I would like to thank you, one, for joining us and coming in on the show. Do you feel that there's anything that is being left out that we need to highlight to help reduce stress, anxiety, even feeling depressed with this process?
Major key for me is to get pre-approved. If you want to go look at a home, get pre-approved. Don't delay that process. Of course, if there's an open house, you can do that and go and take a look and see if you can qualify for the home, but always know your numbers before you fall in love.
Okay. All righty. Well, we heard it here first. Before we end today's show, I want to let you guys know that we are now closing the month, which means we are getting closer to our giveaway winner being chosen. So if you're a man looking for mental health services, but you don't know where to start, again, look no further. Your girl is here. I got you. Enter our giveaway to win 1 free assessment and 3 free counseling sessions. That's a total of 4 free sessions, adding up to way past $1,500. So please know that we are sponsoring any man who meets the guidelines. So fellas, all I need you to do is follow us on Instagram at mentally_howareyou, and then I need for you to follow ACTV on YouTube, and then email me your information to mentallyhowareyou@gmail.com. We are still moving forward with Men's Health Awareness Month, and we are focused on making sure that men retrieve a state of mental well-being. Send these details to any man who you feel may benefit from the process, or even some of these thoughts that we've discussed today. Remember, everyone, it is time to move past the stigma and to grow. The best time was yesterday, but the next best time is now. Olivia, do you have any resources, any organizations, or even strategies to recommend to our viewers?
Yes, so we've got the NACA program, that's NACA. We've also got the Neighborhood Project. And then tomorrow, is that June 28th. Tomorrow, June 28th, the Aurora is hosting a home buyer expo at the Prisco Center from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. So you will be able to meet me in person. If you have questions, definitely come and ask me anything. I would love to meet you in person, even if you're not ready or you know it's something that you want to do in the future. We can talk about it and I can set the stage for you and your situation personally. But yes, the IDA program as well, and HUD, H-U-D. HUD has a lot of resources as well. They can connect you with a counseling advisor, financing advisor, housing advisor. But yeah, that's
okay. Perfect. So then be sure to catch Olivia tomorrow. So that's the Prisco Center at what time again?
Prisco Center from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., the Home Buyer Expo.
Okay, guys, take advantage of opportunities like this that are happening around the city, your town, wherever you are, even if you're not here in Aurora. Take advantage of these types of spaces because this will help relieve that stress, relieve that anxiety, or just confusion altogether, okay? Ms. Olivia White, I want to thank you for joining us and providing so much information today.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me.
If you are looking to buy or sell property, please reach out to Olivia. Ladies and gentlemen, her information will be attached to the episode. As always, I thank you all for sitting with me on this episode of Mentally How Are You, and it is my hope that you are leaving more stable than when you came in. Before we close today, I have to say a happy heavenly birthday to my mother. It is befitting that her birthday is today on a Friday. Hopefully she's shining down, looking on the show and excited about what I am doing. I will see you all in 2 weeks because next week is the 4th of July, so we will not have a show next week. Be safe, spread love, have fun with your family and your friends, but I'll talk to you in 2 weeks. Bye, everyone.
No judgment, just love, so I can be me. I'm tired of hearing it's okay not to be okay. Just want the dark days to go away. Mentally, how are you? How are you? Yeah, I know it's hard, but you can get well if you want to. Mentally, how are you? Yeah, I know it's hard. will if you want to.